Show you guys how to take your photo that we're going to take against the green screen to make it easier to remove the background and put you into a new environment. So first things first, we want to get a photo of the background of your choice. It could be in a landscape, could be an interior, but I do want this to be a fairly realistic looking environment. So whether it's real or maybe CGI, it should look realistic. This morning we had a student that had just like a cartoon page with a bunch of different things on it, but that's not going to give us the effect that we want. I want to show you guys how to make it look like you would actually be there. So here we go. So I'm going to go to, the first thing we're going to do is get something off the internet, try to find something big. The best way to find something big is I'm going to go to a new thing here. I'm going to do a search. So Jackson 5 on, we'll just say Jackson 5 on stage. There we go. Just to give you an idea, so you go to images and you go to tools, size, and large. That way you will start to get things that are on a large size. So the one on the left here, if you can see, zoom up on it there, you can see that's 1920 by 1200. So that would be a decent size. So then what you would do is you'd go here, right click it, open image in a new tab, zoom back out. Now we have a fairly large image. I should redo this with me like right there. And I'm going to say save image as. In this case, I made a folder for my green screen Photoshop. I encourage you guys to do the same thing. Anytime you do a project that has more than one file, it makes sense to put a folder together. Only takes a second. You can make a new folder right at the bottom of your Finder window. See where it says new folder? All right. So I'm going to put this in here. I'm going to change it from whatever it is. Max Res Default, it's not a really great name, right? So we want to, I'm going to call this a J5 1970s. That would be pretty good. And make sure you keep the end of the file name. What's the end called? Do you guys know? It's called an extension. It's a file name extension. So whatever it is, here it says JPEG down at the bottom. Just save it that way. All right, so our goal, let me go back to Photoshop over here. Our goal is to put yourself into this image. I want you guys to save your layered Photoshop file in your server folder, but I want you guys to save a copy as a JPEG, and that's the file that you're going to upload to the Google Classroom. So here we go. So the first thing I had to do is get my picture taken. I noticed that the light was coming from the right side of this image. So I went up against the green screen and I put a pretty good light in front of me to kind of simulate, simulate this. The next step is I need to remove the background. So if you take a look here where it says background, can everybody see that? The first step is to unlock the background, and the easy way to do that is click the lock. Now notice that background layer changed to layer 0. It also gave us some other options up here, which I'll talk about. All right, so now when we remove any piece of this, say if I have my eraser here, what's going to happen is you're going to get this checkerboard. That means those areas are transparent. All right. Now, since there's a lot of other stuff around here that I don't need, what I'm going to do is I'm going to crop out that outside stuff that I don't need. So I'm just going to click and drag a rectangle of the area that I want, and then I'm going to hit return. Why mess with all that other stuff when it's, I don't need it. All I need is this is my silhouette, my shape here with the background removed. All right, so the next step is how do I get rid of that background? If you have a solid color like this, we're going to use a technique called color range to select this. So I'm going to go to select. Now again, we're in Photoshop now. The menus are a lot different. However, some things are very similar to InDesign and to Illustrator. The layer panel, for example, is very similar. All right, so what we want to do is go to select. We want to go to color range. Now what I can do is I can click a color and it will select all the colors that are on that layer. Can you see this dark area here? I just happen to click in this area. You're going to hold the shift key and try to select as much of that green as possible. But you do not want to select anything that is black, because what would happen if I did that?
It would get rid of all the black.
Yeah, it'd get rid of all the black, or go into my pants there. So we don't want that. All we want is the green. Now here's another thing that a lot of people don't realize. I can also click my little preview window, hold the shift key to add to that selection, and sometimes it's easier to find parts of your color on that preview. Everybody got that? Here's the thing. Notice how I was holding the shift key? When you hold shift key in a lot of programs, it allows you to select more than one thing. So this works the same way, except instead of selecting objects or files, I'm selecting colors. All right, so at this point, I can adjust the fuzziness. Your default is 40 of fuzziness. I'm not sure exactly why they call it fuzziness. But you can see if I increase this, it selects so much that it's going to select my whole body. If I pull it back, then it doesn't select all the green. So you probably want it right around 40 to 50, somewhere in that range, depending on what you're doing, okay? So I'm going to say, okay, I'm going to hit delete. Now what you see here is that I've selected pretty much the whole background, except for some of the stuff by my feet. So what I want to do now is I want to improve my selection. This is kind of an advanced thing, but I'm going to show it to you. Can you guys see how like I'm not selected? It's everything that's not me. So with everything that's not me selected, which is the inverse of the positive image, so it's the negative image, I'm going to go to select, modify, and I'm going to expand that range by a pixel. What that does is it pushes it out a little bit. So now when I hit delete, it's going to take a little of that edge off. Photoshop has some very advanced masking and edging tools that I'll get into later. But for right now, I just want to keep this simple. You can see that there's still a little bit stuff selected over there, but that's okay. If I wanted to get rid of the stuff behind my legs, I could do that. I could use the eraser tool, which you can hit the E key, and that will give you an eraser tool. You can also use a selection tool. So this is the move tool right here. I just figure I'll show you these tools. That's the move tool. It does what? It moves things, right? We have a rectangular marquee, elliptical marquee tool. We'll talk about the single row later. So this is for selecting a large area. So say you don't want to use just, I need to zoom up a little bit. Say you're trying to select a fairly large area, and it's going to take too long to do it using just the eraser tool. You can just click an area and then hit delete. All right. This doesn't have a lot of those areas. Or if you have an odd shaped area, you can use the lasso select, the lasso tool, and this will allow you to grab whatever shape that you can create and then go ahead and delete. For the purpose of this, I'm not going to go much more into this, just to keep this going quickly. So now what I want to do is I want to make sure that this image is going to fit onto this image. So I'm going to take a look at this image and see what size it is. So I'm going to go to Image, Canvas size, or Image size. And this tells me up here that this is 1485 by 1182. So I want to make sure that my image isn't much bigger or much smaller. Also, your specification is this is right around 10 inches wide by somewhere around 7 inches tall at 150 pixels per inch. Remember we talked about resolution? 72 is low. 150 is like a medium resolution, and like 300 or above is a high resolution that you'd send out for a printer. Since this is an in-house thing, 150 is fine for us. So what I need to do is to make sure my other image is about that, and at least make sure that it's the right resolution. So I'm going to go to image size. If we take a look at this, you can see that the pixel dimensions, it's a lot taller. See that 19? We wanted to be like around 11. So let's change my resolution first to 150. And then we're going to change the height to 7. And that'll put us right about where we need to be. Okay? I want to show you what happens if we don't do that though. So I'm going to undo the image size. If I do Command A, do you know what that means? Select all is correct. Command C is copy. So now I'm going to go here and do Command V. See how I'm a lot bigger? So this is going to take a little bit more time to do. So if you go here and you take the time to do this, it just makes your life a lot easier. So I'm going to change this. You know, when you're trying to blend more than one image together, it's so much easier when they're all the same resolution. So remember that, you guys. So I'm going to put my height in as like 7. Say OK. Command A, Command C. Go here, Command V. And it's just going to be easier to work with. All right, so now what I wanted to do was move myself into the right place. Looks like I might have made myself a little bit too small. You can always start a little bit bigger and go there. Command T will show your transform tools. I think there's a default in here somewhere. Let me stop that. I think there's a default up here somewhere where you can say always show transform tools. But Command T, if you don't see it, you always want to hold the Shift key. Why? So you don't distort your image, right? Okay, so I'm going to put myself right there. That looks pretty good. I can also change the, let's see, what we want to do is change my image. I'm going to go to black and white. And that looks okay. You know, that might look better because it gives my skin some tone. Yeah, sorry, you guys. I think I'm going a little over. If you're on stage, then you're probably going to be blasted pretty good. I just wanted to show you guys this. So whenever you do black and white, you can leave it default, but sometimes it doesn't look that great. In this case, it looks fine. So what I would do is I would do this, and I would put, see, there's my old one. And then I'd put my fro on. There we go. We'll just line myself up there. Now this obviously is not done, you guys. But, you know, let's just say that, you know, I did it the right way. We'll just go back to my previous version here. So what you're going to do is you're going to go File, Save As, and this, I'm going to call this green screen. Williams, right? And then I could put the date, which is 10/19/18. All right, so I'm going to put this in as my Photoshop file. The Photoshop file is going to get all your layers, just in case you need to go back and adjust things. Then what you're going to do is go Shift Command S is Save As. What we're going to do is, or you can go to Save As, we're going to change this to a JPEG, which will make a flattened version, which is hard to edit, but that's the file that you're going to upload that I'm going to use in the PowerPoint or in the presentation. All right, that's it, you guys. Thanks for watching.